So John chapter 12, right? So many things happen in this chapter. We see Jesus riding into Jerusalem on a donkey as a sign of humility rather than a horse like a king or a conqueror. We see him predict his own death, telling his disciples he's actually going to die soon for their sins, which of course they don't understand. And then we see Jesus even say this line, he says, "Now my soul is troubled, what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? No, it was for this very reason I came to this hour. Father, glorify your name." Right? We see the heart of Jesus in this as he recognizes what's going to be hard and painful to take on the sins of the world and die for us. But he also recognizes a greater purpose that's over the upcoming pain. But I think what's really interesting about this chapter is actually the beginning when we see Jesus attending a dinner in his honor about a week before the crucifixion. And Mary actually comes out with this oil and pours it on Jesus' feet and starts wiping his feet with her hair. Sounds kind of weird, right? Well, in Jewish tradition, it was actually customary for the host to have a servant wash a guest's feet because there were sandals everywhere, so they were like super gross, like nasty, right? And then they would dab a small bit of oil on their head just as a blessing on them. And what's special about what Mary did is she used something very expensive. It says like a year's wages, in fact, not on his head, but on his feet. She was saying, my expensive oil isn't worthy of your head. The best I can do is wash your feet with it. And the humility, right, of using her hair to wipe it, if you can get past how weird this sounds, you see that Mary was performing a typical honor in an extraordinary way with humility. And so Mary she just wanted to honor Jesus. And I think the story of Mary is one of devotion, right? We see her 3 times in the Bible at the feet of Jesus. Like her life was all about devotion. And then we got Judas, right? Judas tries to scold her for wasting money. He can immediately tell the price of it. And Judas has a sharp sense of financial value, but no appreciation for what God values. He thought this was too much love and devotion to show Jesus. If we are extravagant in our love for Jesus, he's not going to criticize us. Like, that's what Judas did. But are we like Mary, like extravagant in our love for Jesus, or are we like Judas, criticizing others who are? The last thing I find kind of interesting about this passage is Jesus says, she has done this for the day of my burial. Mary knew something the disciples didn't understand. She knew that Jesus was going to die, and so she was compelled to offer this extravagant gift of devotion to Jesus. Mary had more, I think, insight into his own death than his own disciples, right? Like, who had been with him multiple times. Why? Because I think she spent time at the feet of Jesus. Do we spend time at the feet of Jesus? Meaning, do we spend time sitting in God's word, not trying to prove anything, not trying to correct anyone, not trying to get our questions answered, but simply with a hunger to hear from our Father, whatever he wants to say? Do we spend time at the feet of Jesus?